You're joining us, Karibu Sana to K&A Table, where we discuss matters politics and matters governance, who did what, where, when, why, and how. And as usual, we never fail to ask the question, how much money was spent, how much money is going to be spent, and how much more or less is the taxpayer going to incur. And as usual, I am joined by Emmanuel Bosire, of course, who helps us analyze as well as interpret a couple of things that are happening in our country. Now, of course, a lot has been trending, or a lot is trending in Kenya, in East Africa, in Africa, and the world at large. And that is what we discuss right here at the K&A Table. So, of course, if you're new, welcome and feel at home. The comment section is always open. Feel free to give us your opinion as well as your suggestions on what can be done, of course, to improve our country, what can be done to improve your area. It could be your county, it could be your division or your ward. Please tell us in the comment section below. Now, what is currently happening? So, of course, we saw the president, William Ruto, coming back to Kenya. That is from his trip from China. That is ahead of the Mashujaa Day celebrations, which are to take place in Kericho tomorrow. And this will be the 60th Mashujaa Day celebration, of course, under the theme Universal Healthcare. Which is, of course, a major agenda in every country, as well as part of Kenya Kwanza's manifesto as well as initiative. Now, just before we get into it, I would like to ask Emmanuel, shujaa wako ni nani?
Shujaa wangu. That's a very difficult question.
Yeah, it's a very easy question. Shujaa wako, ama niuze mashujaa wako ni nani?
At least niwe mashujaa wangu.
Mashujaa wako ni kina nani?
Of course, God anakuja number one. Asijui ni shujaa, but yeye ni shujaa wa mashujaa. And then my parents come in, my mom and dad, my brothers, and all of those many who stood with me in many different ways since I was growing up to the moment. Shujaa wetu mkubwa Sam Mweliokemwa.
Ala, okay, ni sawa. Lazima ukumbuke mdosi.
Lazima ukumbuke mdosi. Unajua it's very good. Unakumbuka mdosi. Ni mtetezi wa haki. Na najua wengi wamemwona sana mtandaoni, wanasema ni shujaa wa wengi.
100%.
Ni shujaa wengi sana. Naam.
100%. Now, of course, we are seeing tukirudi now back to Kenya. Pia wewe kwenye comment section tuambie shujaa wako ni nani, and send them a big shout out. Appreciate them, you know. Appreciate them as we celebrate the Mashujaa Day in Kenya. What are some of, okay, of course, we know a lot has been happening in Kenya with the presence of the president as well as the absence of the president. What are some of the key things that you feel or think the president is supposed to address during this particular Mashujaa Day in regards to Kenyans, aside from the health issue?
You know, first, at the moment, if we really want to celebrate him as our shujaa tomorrow, we should not remember the shujaa. You know, it's going to be divided into different sections, from professional to talents to skills and whatever. So to him, and maybe for my own suggestions, at the moment that many Kenyans are living in difficult times, Kenyans are having hard economic times. If he was to be a real shujaa, it was to work out the shortest possible way to ensure that the prices of especially food is affordable. And tomorrow is going to Kericho, where the border clashes at Sondu and Kisumu have been experienced. I think you saw today, they're chasing again the police officers. So if he's a real shujaa, why does he use all the possible machinery to ensure that there's peace? And this to be sorted out once for all. So that to celebrate with the people of Kericho, it does not be, in as much as a national event, it should first benefit those in Kericho. The main problem they have, especially those in the border, first is they're having hard economic times. They don't have food. And two, there's crashes on. There are people stealing their property. There are people destroying businesses. Students are not finding it easy to go to school, in as much schools are going to be closed this week. So they want to affect those ones who are going to sit for the KCSE examinations. Yeah.
So, of course, we know that a lot is always discussed during this particular events, that is major events in Kenya. What are some of the things that you think or you feel the president is supposed to address during this particular Mashujaa Day? feel free to tell us on the comment section below. Now, speaking of land position, of course, we've had the Mavoko land saga taking place. We've seen a lot of people, over 50 people have lost their homes. We've seen schools being demolished. We've seen hospitals being demolished. Same goes for mosques, same goes for business enterprises, all because of the Portland land, of course. And a lot of things have happened. A lot has been said. We've seen the cabinet secretary, that is Alice Wahome, the land's cabinet secretary, Alice Wahome, stating that, of course, you're going to be forced to vacate public as well as government land, or better yet, you're going to face the consequences. And yesterday we saw a discussion, or we had a discussion, a previous discussion, of course, with Emmanuel Bosire as well as Mr. Henry Nyamoya on what is currently happening at Mavoko. Now, Mr. Henry Nyamoya gave his opinion on what is happening at Mavoko, but we didn't get to see Emmanuel's side because you were the moderator then on what is happening in Mavoko. So, is what is happening in Mavoko okay? Is what is happening in Mavoko right? Is the government doing the right thing by demolishing people's houses?
First, I would want to say that in as much it could be right to the company owners, that is East African Cement Company, it would be wrong at the same time. So these are such equations in mathematics where 1 + 1 does not give you 2. So these are court ruling.
No.
And if you do good research, you'll find out that this problem did not start yesterday.
No.
This problem has been existing more than 20 years. First, when Alfred Ruto, the governor then, gave out his speech regarding to the land grabbing that was being experienced in Mavoko.
No.
Here then, local residents reported several cases to the area chiefs, to the area sub-chiefs, telling them there's land grabbing, that people are purchasing land at small amounts, at throwaway price, up to purchasing a land 100,000, less than 50,000. So this was a well planned scam by the fraudsters who took advantage of the innocent Kenyans, possible investors, to come in and invest. So the court ruling has been made that the owners of the land, after realizing that there was land grabbing, now that it was not being used, they've realized that it has been sold to other Kenyans. So they've gone to the court. They've challenged the other sellers. The buyers are unable to give full evidence that they are original owners of that land.
No.
You being asked where the title deed, you don't have. And if you have a fake one. So this one is a court ruling. And a court ruling is always respected. So the court ruling found out that the original owners of the land are the East African Cement Company. So they are original owners.
No.
So when you are the original owner of your property, so you have something to do about it. So you are the sole decision maker. Now, here we must differentiate between the government and the owner of the land.
No.
This is not a public land. This is in as much it can be public land, but who is the owner?
Of course, the East Africa Portland.
So they are the ones who are the owners of the land.
No.
So when you see people bringing in the issue of the government is doing this and that, these are statements even the government is not in. So we should be able as Kenyans to differentiate between government property, private property, and individual property. So the demolitions are at the expense of the Portland company. They're the ones destroying, not the government.
But let me just stop you there, kidogo. The president actually said, the president himself, William Ruto, said that part of this land, first of all, he said that we should evacuate this land because part of this land was going to be used to expand the manufacturing zone, which is equated to creating job opportunities or employment opportunities for the youth. So in one way or another, it is connected to the government.
No, it's good that you're coming to help me explain it. If land belongs to a Portland Cement Company, it is under the manufacturing what? Docket. So here they are going to reuse the land, increase and create more maybe factories for youth for employment. So the owners are the Portlands, but they're helping the government in production of what? manufacturing sector. So here it can be linked. It's a two-way. One, but the original owners are the Portland. So they are the ones, and what the government is doing is trying to chase those who bought land that does not belong to them. So the government is replacing them. So it's like saying this: you have a public school.
No.
That land belongs to a public secondary school, and then someone comes and purchases that land. When the government chases that person away, is the government fighting development?
No, not really.
So it's the same case that happened in Morocco. The land belongs to the Portland Cement Company, and they are dedicated to ensure that manufacturing sector is doing what? Is expanding and creating more employment opportunities. But you find out that land grab being happened, and people were misled to purchase land that belongs to a company. And when the company has petitioned in a court, and a court ruling has been made to declare that this land belongs to the East African Portland Company. Now, the company itself has found a relief. It has been empowered by the court to remove these dwellers who come in to challenge them. And now they have been given power. So power belonged to them to chase them away. So when you've been given power by the court, you don't have any shortcut. But again, we should practice sovereignty. When some mercy, you should have some mercy. Now you find out that this land, in as much it has been bought, is not going to be useful. Now what we can do, let's maybe resell it to those ones and give them the right title deeds. Now someone came and misled them, they purchased the land, but ignorance. If you think ignorance in Kenya, you cannot survive. So it's better you go for the right channel and purchase the land. And this problem is not only in Maboko. Kenyans have been having these serious problems all over parts of the country, especially in urban areas. You find out that you can be sold land that does not exist. Now someone can lie to you and sell to you land that does not exist. They make fake title deeds and they sell it to you. But when the original owners now come and want to invest in that particular piece of land and found out that an intruder has come and bought it, even if you have invested millions, believe me, your house will be flattened, or the property, or any kind of investment that you placed upon it. This especially, when the surveys were being done with the aeroplane long time ago, maybe. Do you know that time?
I don't know the time, but I know what happens when you're purchasing land.
So when land was being partitioned all over the parts of the country, land had issues during independence, and people, and especially when the population keeps on growing. Now, when we are experiencing high population increase in our country, we're finding out that land is becoming scarce. And when land is becoming scarce, people try to use many ways to have a piece of land, either by leasing it or by having it on permanent ways. So you find out there was land that was proportioned to public lands, especially for markets, known as common land. We have common lands actually, whereby we'll have a church being built, a school, a TVET, or even a university. That's where many common lands. But you found out that those dwellers in that areas decided to sell common land to different buyers. So you find out that someone maybe comes from a distant land, and you've been lied to that this land belongs to this my land. And someone sells to you land that's common land. And now when the government later, not government is government. It's only systems of administration that change. Government will always be government. Government, we had Jomo Kenyatta was being the head of government, Moi being the head of government. Even after William Ruto going away, another person will come and head government. But it's government. Now when government will come and realize that our common land needs to be utilized, what they will do, they will revisit the map and see which is the exact part of our common land. So when they come and realize that you build infrastructure there, in as much how expensive it will be. Now, when the government brings that building down, is the government fighting development?
Of course not.
No. The government. So this the same thing happening in Mavoko. It should not be politicized. It should be left as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speaking of politicizing the Mavoko land, of course, we had a section of UDA members shedding the light or shedding more information about what is currently happening at Mavoko, as well as the plans to expand the land into a manufacturing zone. So let's just take a listen in to the leaders, and then we'll be right back to see or to understand why we might probably be seeing women walking naked protesting in the streets very soon.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill on the onset and on the face of it because I support the concept. I support the concept of marginalized areas.
Sisi ni wabunge ambao tuko kwa mrengo wa Kenya Kwanza kutoka sehemu za Ukambani. Na kwanza nataka niseme kwamba ile shida ambayo iko Athi River sio shida mpya. Ni shida ambayo ilianza kitambo. Wakenya wanakumbuka kwamba wakati Mheshimiwa George Saitoti alikuwa waziri wa internal security wakati wa serikali ya Mheshimiwa Mwai Kibaki. In the year 2011-2010 aliweza kuteua tume maalum ya kwenda kuchunguza jinsi wakora walikuwa wamejipanga kuvamia shamba za serikali, chaired by former Commissioner Abdullah Duba. So there was a Saitoti commission, and the report came in 2012, if those of you care to the people who are involved. And the names that are being mentioned are not new because they are in the 2012 Saitoti report. Na baadaye mnakumbuka kwamba mimi nilikuwa nafanya kazi katika kaunti ya Machakos. Na najua kwamba hii shida imekuweko. Kwamba watu wanajipanga wachache, wanajihami, wanavamia shamba ya serikali ama wanavamia shamba ya mtu binafsi, wanajifanya masquatter kusudi ndio waweze kupata right of ownership ya mashamba. Kwa hivyo kumekuwa na wanasiasa ambao ni patrons, kumekuwa na cartels ambao ni criminals wanatumika kuvamia mashamba, na kumekuwa na wafanyikazi katika maofisi za serikali katika survey na katika land registry ambao wamekuwa wakisaidia hao. Na vile vile kumekuwa kwamba ndio utumwe Machakos kama county commander, ndio utumwe Mavoko kama OSPD ama DC, lazima ukue katika hiyo cartel. So imekuwa ni cartel kubwa ambayo imekuwa ikiumiza watu wetu. Hivi leo tunavyoongea si shamba ya Portland peke yake ambayo imenyang'anywa, na ni vizuri watu wetu waelewe. Kuna shamba ya Portland, kuna shamba ya Numerical Machines, kuna mashamba private ambazo zimechukuliwa. Some of our most prominent people including Judge Mbaluto, shamba yake Katani imevamiwa na wakora hao. Kwa hivyo the problem is bigger. Kwanza ni solution ile ambayo imekuja, na nikimalizia ni kwamba this has been long overdue. Hao watu wote tunajuana, wale ambao wamechukua mashamba, hao wanasiasa wengine tuko nao hapa kwa bunge, na wote wamekuwa wakisema wanajua wanaweza faulu ama wasifaulu. So they have never been sure because they have never had a right over this land. They knew one day if the government is decisive, they have no claim over that land. So it is important for it to be known that they are shedding crocodile tears. Namba pili, ndio tunasema kwamba tumeuliza serikali, kwa sababu what is being said huku nje ni kwamba Wakamba wanavamiwa. Hii ni shamba ya Wakamba wamekuwa hapa. The Kamba people, we have about 5.5 million. Wale watu ambao wako Mavoko ni about 1,500 people. And not all of them are Kambas. That is important for people to know kwamba wale watu tumeona wengine Congo village. Kwani Congo ni Makueni. Watu wa Congo wanasema Congo village, wametolewa Congo, wamekuja wamepewa mashamba hapo. Alafu tunaambiwa ni Wakamba wamenyang'anywa shamba. Kwani Congo village yao ni watu wa Makueni ama ni watu wa Kitui? Tumesikia huyu, tumeona hule. So ni Wakenya wamekuwa pale wengi. Yaani wamenyang'anywa pesa na wanajua ni nani alikunyang'anya pesa. Pili, umeuziwa shamba, umejenga hoteli. Shamba umeuziwa eka 10 na umesema umelipa 500,000. Shamba iko Mavoko 500,000, ni wapi shamba ya 10 acres inaweza kuwa 500,000? Kumaanisha hata wewe ukinunua ulijua unanunua fake. Tatu, hakuna shamba inapeanwa na mtu binafsi. Shamba inapeanwa na serikali. Kama umekuja umepata mtu binafsi amekwambia na kupatia shamba ndio ujenge. Sasa si serikali ya county, si National Land Commission, sio Ministry ya Lands, nani binafsi anaweza kupeana shamba? Kwa hivyo tuache ubunuasi. Tuulize watu wetu wa Wiper, tuache ubunuasi, tuache kuinsight ati ni jambo la Wakamba. Si jambo la Wakamba. Ndugu yangu akiiba, si mimi nimeiba. Ni wachache, wawili, watatu wameiba na tunawajua. Kama umekuwa ukiletewa pesa ya kufanya kampeni kutoka kwa mashamba ya Portland, ndugu yangu, declare your interest. Useme hawa wamekuwa wakiuza hizi mashamba, wananiletea pesa kufanya kampeni. Mimi naitwa fulani fulani kutoka Sikuru na nimekuwa nikiletewa hiyo pesa kufanya kampeni. Let us just be open. Na si jambo imefanyika Ukambani peke yake. Hivi tunavyoongea Kericho, kuna wale ambao walikuwa wamevamia mashamba ya tea factories, wametolewa kwa hizo mashamba. Wale ambao wamekuwa wamevamia mashamba ya Mau wametolewa. So it is not an Ukambani only problem. We want to say that lazima we must correct the wrongs of the past. Now what we have been told is that hii shamba it will be put into public use. Kutajengwa mafactory, kutajengwa manyumba, and our only request is that His Excellency the President prioritizes the local community. Wakati kazi zikitengenezwa 60% zipewe watu wetu wa Kamba ndio tuweze kusonga mbele. Asanteni sana, and the media, please tell the story as it is. Stop sugarcoating. Stop working with cartels and criminals. These people are criminals. And you cannot tell the story of the criminal and you don't tell the story that is in public interest. Thank you very much.
Yes, most definitely. That is what is happening in the land sector, and the advice given there is basically what Emmanuel has also talked about, as well as what the Lands Cabinet Secretary, that is Alice Wahome, emphasized, stating that shared documents are not a legal representation, of course, of ownership, of land ownership, urging that you as a buyer, as a land buyer, should actually carry out your due diligence by checking the status from the land office, as well as obtaining maps from the survey department in order to understand what kind of land you're occupying. And again, as Emmanuel has also said, when the deal is too good, you have to think twice.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you have to think. So you can't buy land, especially right now, at such a cheap, that is not even affordable, at such a cheap price.
You know, like now, to get a 50 by 100 piece of land, you need to be prepared around a million. Depending on where you purchase
the location, yeah.
But if you get someone telling you 100,000, 200,000 rand,
think twice.
They
not even think twice. Don't even think. Just run. As Emmanuel is saying, you know. And moving on, of course, I had said earlier on, you're going to be looking at what kind of protests are going to be happening. Now, of course, we know when you talk about marginalized groups, when you talk about marginalized areas in Kenya, we normally talk about the northern eastern part of Kenya, the likes of Akina Wajir, the likes of Akina Garissa, etc. Now, we had Karen Nyamu actually give a proposal as well as a suggestion that slum areas, especially in Nairobi, should actually be considered as marginalized regions. Ata before kwenda mbali, do you feel like, first of all, when you look at the meaning of being marginalized, do you feel like, or do you think, or should slums be fitted in that particular category?
You know, let me start by saying, I want you to, where are slums located?
In various places in Kenya, but
let's stick to Kenya.
Okay.
In a capital city.
Capital city.
Now, where's Kibera slum?
Next to Karen. Yes.
Now, this you see. Slums are found where they are estates.
Bougie places, yes.
Wherever there's an estate, there's
a slum.
There's a slum.
No.
Wherever there's an estate, there are slums. Now, this is a clear picture that leaders cannot fix a problem. Okay, our Kenyan leaders, we don't demand them. Our Kenyan leaders, we don't demand them. And that's why up to today, we are experiencing slums. And if we don't become keen as a nation, we want to experience more slums. Because first, we're having high population increase. Second, we have high employment rates. Third,
unemployment.
Yes. That's what I said. If I did not say that, it's unemployment rates.
No.
So with these challenges and bad economy, where are people going to find money to even stay in good rentals? So this one is giving rise to slums. And you know all the ills comes from slums. Poverty in slums. Killings comes from slums. all kinds of problems will always arise from slums. And when they arise from slums, we're going to have a bad country. So we cannot say that slums should be marginalized. No. The moment we say that slums are marginalized, we are messing. We are messing as a country. Because these are people who can be improved. Their lives can be improved. If the government, like they are singing for us years and years, that will, the moment you marginalize a place, you're giving it power to become even more marginalized. What we want, we don't want marginalization. What we want to unify our country. We want a unity of purpose. So we don't want to have a scenario where you're telling us, I stay in Karen, I stay in a slum. What we want is that I'm a Kenyan.
No.
Are you seeing?
No.
When we reach up to this discussion where we think, I'm a Kenyan, then we'll have improved. So the moment we say that we're marginalizing slums, we're losing it all. First, if the government really is serious about slums and want to have affordable housing programs, first, if the government decides we want to build our country, we want to remove slums, first, they will have created a lot of employment opportunities. How many engineers will be working?
Very many.
The reason that we have developing countries leaving us behind is that where there are skills, where there's a will, there's a way. They've decided to work on manufacturing. There's no jobs in white-collar jobs. If they invest much in skills, how many TVETs have they put in place? How many plumbers do we have as a country? How many electricians do we have? If now they decide to have let's have a building phase, maybe one, of removing a slum, one by one. Maybe say in 2 years we want to be done with this slum by using maybe loans or by bringing grants from or whatever. They will create a lot of employment. Those ones in the slums, they'll be working day and night. And in our environment, it will enable us to work day and night. And when you have a working nation, you'll have a development. So what I want to say that we should not marginalize. Ni kama kwambia mtoto aje, wewe ni mjinga. That child will believe yeye ni mjinga. Hata akifanya anything, si mimi ni mjinga. But when you tell, you can improve. So they'll be improving. People living in slums, they don't want to be in slums. They are trying to work hard. Now, what you do, give them favorable environment that they can maybe do their business one or two that should improve them. Can you employ them? Give them either skilled or unskilled labor. They perform. Pay them. They will improve their lives. They'll be able to feed themselves. When you are able to feed yourself, you are able to think well. When you think well, you are able to see how you'll be improving your life. Yeah.
Okay, I want us to listen to Karen Nyamo and then see if she's going to probably change your opinion or make you see it in a different way. Let's just listen to Karen Nyamo and then we'll be right back.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill on the onset and on the face of it because I support the concept. I support the concept of marginalized areas being given extra funds to channel development to them. I also support because it alleviates the burden of the already strained county budget. I also like the fact that it is project-specific and it is also area-specific. But Madam Speaker, I also have an issue with the formula, just like my other colleagues have said before. And Nairobi has been assumed to be a rich county. Just because we have rich estates like Karen, Muthaiga, we ignore the slum dwellers of Nairobi. Article 204 of the Constitution that creates this bill is very clear that it is this bill and these funds are supposed to benefit the marginalized areas. Madam Speaker, in Nairobi, we have a lot of marginalized area and that are also densely populated. Nairobi is a home of big slums like Kibera, Mathare, Korokocho, and the Kayabas. And I'm sure, Madam Speaker, you've never heard of a slum called Silanga, etc. The deplorable state that these citizens, Kenyan citizens, are living in have continued to be ignored by policy makers and also legislators in this and the other houses, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I happen to be privileged to have served at the board of Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company for 3 years before I became a senator. And in Nairobi Water, we had mapped Nairobi into 7 regions. We have the central region, which includes the CBD and its environs. We have the southern region. And Madam Speaker, we saw it wise and necessary to have another region, a separate region that is called that it included all the slums, that was called I forget the name, but the slums and all those regions were under a region, regardless of the location and the geographical area. And Madam Speaker, how we dealt with the slums was not the same way we dealt with other regions, in terms of billing, in terms of water supply, because they are more populated and they are less privileged. So, Madam Speaker, I want this House and I want the policymakers, the CRAs, to deal with these regions and to recognize them as marginalized, because they are marginalized, Madam Speaker. We are talking about Korokocho, Soweto, the Viwandani, the Riruta, and all these other areas, Madam Speaker, that have been ignored. Just because they neighbor Karen or they neighbor Muthaiga and other rich estates does not mean they should be ignored. Madam Speaker, they are not children of a lesser God. And Madam Speaker, we have been crying as Nairobi for these slum dwellers, and we have been ignored over the years. And we are going to resort even to unorthodox means. Madam Speaker, as the women of Nairobi and the women of Lainisaba and Kiboro and Muji wa Huruma, we are going to undress in this town, Madam Speaker, so that we can get the attention of the policymakers and this House and the legislators, Madam Speaker, because Nairobi is not a rich county, Madam Speaker. We are not a rich county. Just because we are the seat of government and we happen to have rich estates here and there does not mean that we are rich, Madam Speaker. And enough of this talk. We are going to find solutions for ourselves. Just like Governor Wavinya Ndeti said that Kambas have their own ways of solving things. Nairobi, we are going to find a way of solving this means and having our slum dwellers recognized by the highest office in this House.
Yes, so that was nominated Senator Karen Nyamu and her sentiments on why slums should actually be also recognized as marginalized areas, and it's all in aim of these places being given extra funds, of course, for development. But as per your statement, what I got is that yes, the slum areas should actually be looked into. They should find development, but they should not term them as marginalized areas, because that will make them even more marginalized, right?
Yeah, that's my sense.
Now, of course, we have seen, for example, like in Kenya, not only in Nairobi, because even if you go to a place like Nakuru, there's a very, very big slum in Nakuru, you know, and next to it is rich people places.
Just understand, wherever there's a slum, there's an estate. Wherever they kind of growing up, we are so selfish as human beings. The point you get, how long do you find our leaders? An MP. You cannot find an MP aspirant who is not living in Karen. That's what I've come to realize in my research.
Or has a house in Karen.
Or have a house in Karen.
No.
Our leaders, the moment life changes, they change class. And but if we have a position whereby you have a leader staying with you, but again, it becomes impossible because you will be having many people to feed. Maybe it will strain you economically, and maybe you want to run and hide and come back when elections are near.
But we've seen, like, for example, if we go to slum areas, we always have like hizo miradi, by the MCAs sana on how to improve like such areas, or how to ensure that number one, the crime rate reduces, how to ensure that the youths, for example, there have jobs or are busy with probably programs and stuff like that, like in the social hall. So is what is being done there not enough?
No, not that's not being done enough. You find out first we have a problem with implementing our projects.
No.
You find out that we have a vision 2030 as our vision as a country. Are we going to realize it come 2030? Some things we'll be able to achieve. With change of governments and we have politics. The problem we have is that when we go to an election like we did in 2022, so from 2020 actually, we have been in a campaign mode.
No.
And then come 2022 election year, campaign all over, no development. Come 2023, the first 6 months, campaign mode. People are happy. We won. We told you. Thanksgiving programs. So until the first year, there's no development.
No.
And maybe from now and next year, if President Ruto wants to deliver in all other leaders, they deliver now this year, next year, in the half of 2025.
No.
Because since then, they will be now all in campaign mode for 2027. So money that's meant for projects will be stolen for campaigns. Money that should be meant for development in any aspects, maybe children's programs, studies, development of slums, they'll be pocketed by politicians so that they will be used them as tools for campaign in 2027. So the problem we are facing is that we'll be having this challenge of delivering our promises and implementing them. Now find out policy formulation. We have policy formulation processes in our country. You find out that we have good policies. And when I've read some of the policies, and if you take time and read these policies, you'll see how we can improve our country. These policies, if we implement the policies that we have, like one of the policies that has been placed is a policy of zero poverty by the UN.
No.
Has it been improved? No. In fact, poverty is increasing.
No.
So one of the policies that have been placed in by the House, the National Assembly, is that we have only one National Assembly. It's only that we have the upper house and the lower house.
The lower house, yeah.
So where you get parliament, I don't know. Now, when we get into that policy formulation in our parliament, we have good policies. Now, to implement them, give money out.
No.
When you give money out, follow them. Get the exact audit. Get the culprits of corruption. Take them to court. Let court, without any favor, punish someone. Let's see a case where politicians are being forced to resign. The problem we have as a country, we don't demand our leaders.
No.
We elect leaders. We don't keep them in touch. Wherever they come in villages every weekend, they come in with goodies, with some hundreds. They tell you, I know you're hungry. Can you line up? And you'll be happy. That's something that makes me sad. A politician disappears for 3 months and comes again lining you up for only 200. And then you'll be keeping, remember, it's like a medicine.
No.
You'll be singing him again for the next 3 months. And then he disappears. The slums that should be developed are not developed. The slums, like in slums, the problem is the slums. Hapa ndio kuna challenge. You know what Sakaja used? He went into slums akapita hivi. And for you to win elections in Nairobi, you must have a backup from slum areas. So the politicians have identified that trick. You can't, umeona watu wakienda kufanya campaign, Karen. Have you ever seen?
Come to think of it, but I've never seen.
They've never gone to do campaign, Karen.
Yeah.
First, they will not find anyone. People are busy. People are up and down in offices outside the country. But go to Kibera, hata saa 3 asubuhi. Enda na convoy ya campaign. You will see thousands and thousands of youths, of Kenyans. Why? They are not busy. They are not employed. They are having nothing to do. They are just there idle. And that's what they have identified. So this money that they will now do, they'll do a project. They'll start. It will start. It ends on now. They do a groundbreaking ceremony. And then you will expect it to be completed. You never find it.
No.
And then the money that was used, they will even overestimate it. And this is the challenge that we have. We don't have accountability in our process and for policy formulation processes. Someone pockets money that should belong to projects. You know, politicians have good lives. Politicians wanaishi maisha mazuri.
No.
They live good lives. They promise heaven. They deliver hell to Kenyans. People living in sewage lives and politicians living good lives. When will Kenyans get the best of our leadership? And you know, one of the challenges we are seeing, it might even get you by surprise. We are having a low voter turnout every general elections.
No.
The other time it was 84. Last time it was around 69%. By 2027, it will be 50. Believe me, you.
No.
It will be 50. People would not see the essence of voting. What's the essence of voting in actually? As again, you know, what's the essence of voting? For those ones who we vote in, they don't help us at all. So you will see, and if God keeps us alive that year, you tell, the voter turnout will always either increase or decrease depending with the leaders that we have. Can President William Ruto convince Kenyans why they should vote in 2027?
Probably he'll have a reason to
Can
for
he?
2027.
By the look of things? No. By the looks of things, President William Ruto cannot convince Kenyans on the importance to vote come 2027. First, you know, Kenyans will realize if their preferred candidates will not be there, they're not to come and vote.
No.
This is just like what we saw in 2017. And what happens when people don't vote? We'll have a puppet president, puppet leadership. And what do you expect from a puppet leadership? They themselves will not be comfortable to come and maybe deliver some of the promises. They'll be chased up and down like anyone else. So we'll be having problems each and every time if we fail as a system of administrations. How will you go and convince people in Nakuru, that's slum in Nakuru, that you understand them? When in the same Nakuru, you're buying ranches of lands. You don't even employ them. You employ people from other countries because you don't trust in Kenyans. They'll steal your property. You don't support them. You're keeping them in poverty that they cannot be able to do it. And then come in elections, you use your wealth to come and lie to those in slums. Mimi ni mtu wenu. Me, I'm your fellow. Tunaishi na nyinyi hapa Nakuru. Hapa nyinyi Nakuru is home. And we'll be experiencing these problems. So until then, you'll have a country where you are unable to deliver. You know, one of the challenges Mr. President is facing is to unite a country. You cannot unite people that you divided. It's impossible. He divided us.
How?
He told us the dynasty and hustlers. That's what he told us. He told us we want to bring an end to dynasties. He himself is not a hustler, he's a dynasty. They are of the same class. So he divided us to a point we believe that he's a hustler and he can change things. You're seeing what's happening. You saw the other day Safaricom selling our data to KRA. KRA now, people don't want to be paid by cash, by M-Pesa.
Yeah.
They want you to pay their businesses by cash so that they can evade what? Tax. Because tax is high. You want to have a business whereby you can have a profit, but where you find that the cost of running a business in the country is very expensive. When do you expect to enjoy the profits? It's from these profits you can either expand your business or open other businesses. And it's from businesses where people are employed, especially family businesses. So you find out as a president, William Ruto, he will not unite Kenyans because he started the campaign of dividing us. Hawa jamaa wana nyumbani. Mnataka waende nyumbani. You know it. So it will be impossible for him to unite Kenyans. In fact, it will split us even more far. You think even the splits going on. So when people are saying that we don't want to have such kind of leadership, now that the opposition is somehow maybe sorted, Kalonzo Musyoka does not seem to have a direction any soon, maybe until he plants himself. So we want to have this challenge of leadership. Yeah.
And most definitely those are Emmanuel's sentiments right here on the KNA political table, that we are probably going to see more division because of the hustler and dynasty division, as well as how assets, how things are also distributed in our country, Kenya. Now, during this particular session, in case you're joining us right now, as we wind up, of course, we have touched on the issue of the Mavoko land saga and the issue of purchasing land, of course. As usual, advice from Emmanuel, advice from the CS, advice from anyone who has bought land before or has dealt with land is that you need to consult the land department as well as obtain surveys and maps of the land that you're purchasing before you actually purchase that land. And there's also nothing like shared document when it comes to land, and land cannot be sold to you by an individual, just an exchange, a mere exchange. Like what happens, I give you this phone, you give me money. No, there are procedures to it, and you need to also be as well informed on the history of the land that you're purchasing, because it might belong to the government. How long has it been leased for? And you might be chased away. Also, another major issue that we have seen out here is citizens um, ignoring information, as well as being told or warnings on land vacation early in advance. They've all been warned to vacate land even 10 years prior to demolitions. And during the demolitions, they are complaining. So most definitely look into that while you are purchasing or while you are occupying land. Now, we've also talked or touched about the president's return to the country, Kenya, that is from China, in order to grace the Mashujaa Day celebrations that are going to be happening in Kericho. That is tomorrow, the 20th of October, 2023, as we mark the 60th Mashujaa Day in Kenya. So, of course, from the KNA family, we are wishing you an early Mashujaa Day. And of course, we celebrate you as our viewer. We celebrate ourselves also for the strides that we are making in life. And finally, we've also touched on the issue of marginalizing the slum areas. And of course, your opinion counts on whether or not the slum areas in our country, Kenya, should be considered as marginalized, and how, of course, we can ensure that funding is given, or funding is issued to these particular regions and areas in order to ensure overall and equal growth in our country, Kenya. So that is it from the KNA political table today. Of course, thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining us and for always gracing us in these sessions. And most definitely, from us to you, once again, we're wishing you a happy Mashujaa Day early in advance. And we are going to see you in the next KNA table. And we say peace, love, and unity prevail. And have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening. That is depending on whatever time you are joining us right here on the Kenyan News Alive.